Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and Me.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to Q&A number 9.
9?
Rise of like the song Mambo number 5.
I don't know why, but I thought we'd had more than that. That's right. Way!
No.
Hey, that means the next one's the 10th. That's kind of exciting.
I know. Big deal. We're getting there. So, like usual, we're just going to be reading through some stuff that we've gotten from listeners with various questions and things they want to know and giving our responses. Everything today comes from our Facebook group. And Kate said before we started recording, she's like, oh, that makes me sad no one's emailed us.
It does make me sad.
I know.
Email us.
Yes, we do love receiving emails. Regardless of whether it comes in email form or through the form of a Facebook post, we just love that you guys are reaching out.
It's true. Not to poo-poo the Facebook stuff. We love you for participating Facebook people. This is not to poo-poo you. I just also want emails. I want both.
We want both. And the cool thing also about the Facebook group, and I think this applies to, I think every single one of what we're going to read today, is that other people in the group have been responsive and supportive. And that's really cool to see you guys supporting each other and sharing personal experiences or just empathizing with what the person is going through, saying, I've been there. It's awesome. So we love seeing
Y'all
that
are
too.
good folks.
You guys are good folks. Like, we have awesome people in our Facebook group. Everyone's very respectful and very understanding, and we love it. So, Kate, you want to start with the first one?
Will do. All right. So this post said, hello, people. I hope you all are doing good and are peaceful. I just feel a bit of a discomfort as one of my friends is coming to meet me this weekend, and she's going to stay with me the entire weekend. She is my best friend, and we haven't gotten together since the summer of 2019. At first, I was pretty excited when I heard that she's going to spend the weekend here, but now, as the weekend is just around the corner, I am feeling rather anxious. I have a sense of discomfort that I may not enjoy this event, or something might throw me off. I don't know what to expect or do or feel about this upcoming event.
Yeah, so the first thing that went through my mind when I read this post is like, I have been there. I remember for a lot of my life growing up, having friends over to my house or for a sleepover or something like that, whenever they were coming to me, felt like a really big deal. And I wanted everything to go well, and I wanted everyone to have a good time. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself to want everything to go smoothly. And so I've been here, listener. I've been here many, many times. And I think a lot of people have been here. It's very normal. And also, despite how normal and common this may be, it doesn't feel good to feel like this really positive thing is getting tarnished by anxiety or worry about how it's gonna go. So one thing that I've talked about a lot with my therapist has told me this more times than I can count. And when I am reminded of this, it brings me comfort, is that I am not responsible for the other person's experience. And you are not responsible for your friend's experience. So when we have somebody over, when we're spending time with another person, all we can do is our best. All we can do is, try to make the experience a fun one, to relax, to enjoy ourselves, to be authentic. And if that person still does not have a good time, that is not our fault. It is our responsibility. Like when we go to someone else's house, it's our responsibility to try to make the most of that experience, to show up with a positive attitude, to participate, harkening back to some mindfulness stuff. It's our responsibility to try to have it be that we enjoy ourselves in whatever setting that we find ourselves in. If we're not having a good time, that probably is on us rather than the other person. And so same thing with this, with her coming over to spend time with you is that if for some reason she is struggling or she is not having a good time, of course, try to be a supportive friend. You can ask her what's wrong. Is there anything you'd like to do? Is there anything I can do to help? All of that. But at the end of the day, it's up to her to determine how she's going to show up to this experience of being with you for this weekend. It's not your job to make sure that she has a good time. Again, try to be a great host and all of that good stuff, but after that, just let go and let whatever will be in terms of how the weekend goes with the two of you. And also a skill that might be helpful that we've talked about before is using Cope Ahead. That could be something that might help to calm your anxiety, is to think through and to imagine how things may go with her and how you do want to respond or react if she's not having a good time, and how you want to show up in those moments if things feel like they're hitting a speed bump. That's not what I meant to say. A bump of the road. If there's a challenge that comes up, or just if things feel uncomfortable or awkward or weird or whatever it is, just think about how you want to be in that moment and how you might want to get through it. So
Nice.
those are the things I suggest.
I think, interestingly, my first thought is a little bit almost opposite of that, because I wasn't sure from the post if this person was more worried about like their friend's experience or more worried about their own experience. So the other
we're
thing
going to cover both of those bases.
There you go. On my side, I think like you also can only do so much to make sure, in air quotes, I don't know, make sure that you're happy or having a good time. One of the first things that occurred to me is that maybe I ought to have, because I'm sure I could have checked in the Facebook group, but I don't even know what country or anywhere like this person is from. But on average, the world is pretty stressful right now.
No matter where you live.
No matter where you live, some places more than others, right? And so I think there can be this tendency to feel guilty if you feel anything other than 100% excited and joyous the entire time your friend is there, right? And that just might not really be a reasonable expectation to have of yourself. I don't know what's going on in your life personally, but that's going to add its own amount of struggle in that arena. The world, not to put too fine of a point on it, but a lot of people have said the world is burning this year, right? Like, it's not... Shit's hard right now. That's the long and the short of it. So maybe you do have some anxiety. Maybe you are kind of sad. Maybe there's, right? Maybe you're having depression. Maybe you're having anxiety. Maybe whatever, right? And so to recognize you're a human. Humans can't be on all the time. They can't be perfect all the time. You can't guarantee what your emotional state is going to be in all the time. So as best you can, try not to feel guilty if you're not just a fountain of bubbling excitement the entire time your friend is there. That might be too high of a bar to be setting. The other nice thing is you mentioned that this person is your best friend, so maybe or maybe not, but I think one of the best things about close friends is ideally there are pretty low expectations. Like, if I think of someone as qualifying as a best friend, probably one of the things that stands out to me the most about that person is it's okay if I'm feeling shitty. Like, that's someone who I can spend time around when I'm anxious or depressed or angry or, those quote unquote negative emotional spaces, right? Because this is someone who loves me and someone who accepts me in whatever fucking state I happen to be in that moment. So that's one of the other ways, I think about it. There's no really right way to feel about anything, really, but, about this event in particular. The last thing I can think about is that it sounds like you're doing a little bit of, combination of future tripping / potentially self-fulfilling prophecy kind of idea, which is often a phrase I hate. But, there's an idea where you can worry about worry so much that you find yourself doing the thing you were worrying about, right? Like this kind of cycle. So I would say, as best you can, try and practice some mindfulness and try and be in the present moment. We don't know how the future's going to be like. So there's no reason, if we can help it, I like the word you used, Michelle, tarnish, to tarnish the present moment with worries about an unknowable future. Or once your friend has arrived, the same thing, be in that moment. How are things right then? Maybe something does come up that throws you off, or maybe something comes up that throws them off, but you can't know, right? Until until that moment arrives. So be in the moment you're in and get as much enjoyment and satisfaction out of that moment as you can. And just, I don't know, cross every bridge as you come to it, cross every moment as it arrives. Rather than trying to, I don't know, you can't worry yourself into good behavior. You're just more likely to cause yourself to be in the state you're trying to avoid, I guess is the long and short of what I'm trying to say there. Did that all make sense? I felt a little rambly.
Yeah. No, it totally made sense. I liked everything you said.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Next.
This is the next one. So it says, "Hi all, I just started this podcast and I've already listened to a few episodes. I'm enjoying it so far and finding things that are helpful to me with my BPD. As a reminder, we've said this a few times, but BPD stands for borderline personality disorder. I currently do not see a therapist, no insurance, and have not seen one in over a decade. My biggest problems, I guess, at this moment are my explosive reactions and my dang tears. I cry way too much and too easily, and I react angrily to everything. I let every little thing bother me, I take things personal, and I'm very defensive. I don't know how to communicate my huge, intense feelings. I've experienced trauma and abuse and do not have any good coping mechanisms. Any insight or wisdom or something? I just finished both episodes on emotions and have yet to start emotion myths. I'm listening to the episodes in order, so maybe point me to a good one that I should go ahead and listen to."
Awesome. All right, let's see. So many things. All right, so specifically for episodes to listen to. Well, one, you've already got under your belt if you've been listening to them in order, which is the episodes on mindfulness. We talk about, I'm pretty sure in there, being mindful of your own emotions, and oftentimes just that ability to take that half a step back to be looking at and describing your own emotions can help take you out of the thick of them just a little bit, right? Give you a little bit of space in which to have a little bit more control over your responses, or what you do in response to those emotions, right? So mindfulness all the way every day, though not all the time every day, because nobody can do that. So that's one. I think though this one's pretty far ahead. I think opposite action could potentially be good for your situation, listener. Right, when we have these really intense emotional experiences that maybe if we follow sort of the action urge associated with those emotions, we know it's going to take us to a place that doesn't serve us really well, or that we don't want to go. So I would say opposite action could be a skill that could be really helpful for you in that sense. And then I don't know, that my next two thoughts are really framed around I don't know, the way it seems like you might be judging yourself or your experience. So one, the episode on self-soothing with the 5 senses, because I think that of all of the DBT skills, that's the one that feels the most self-compassionate to me, and I'm a big self-compassion advocate. So yep. I love self-soothing with the 5 senses because it's just so nice to you, right? It's about being nice to you when you're feeling, to yourself, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, right? And things like lots of crying or explosive reactions or a ton of anger, like, I don't know, be nice to you, and it might make more of an impact than you think. Certainly it will have a better impact than shitting on yourself about it. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, my last piece of advice with regards to this is look for how your emotions make sense instead of for how they don't. Right? Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but the way that you talk about stuff in here is that it sounds like you're judging your responses. Like, I'm angry when I shouldn't be, or I'm crying when I shouldn't be, or I'm taking things personal when I shouldn't be. Very defensive when I shouldn't be.
Favorite word.
Right? You don't actually say it, but I feel like there's an implied shouldn't just hanging out really deeply in your comment. So your feelings are there for a reason, right? If they don't seem to make sense with the current moment, they probably make sense from some sort of past experience or trauma. I'm a big advocate for there's no such thing as an overreaction. There's just a reaction that maybe we don't know the whole story behind, right? Like, if we went and patted a friend on the shoulder and they screamed and leapt away from us, our first response might be that is a ridiculous overreaction, until we find out that, I don't know, they have a 3rd-degree burn on their shoulder that we just smacked, right? Oh, suddenly their response makes perfect sense, right? And so if we're having a lot of what other people, or maybe even ourselves, are deeming to be overreactions, look for how those make sense. What thing from your past is this poking? What wound is this triggering? What is going on? If your emotion doesn't seem to be tied in the past, are you just generally speaking running like at capacity? Because at that point, every little thing is going to cause you to overflow, right? Emotionally. So again, this is just a lot of ways, I think, to focus on self-compassion. But look for how you make sense instead of how you don't. You might be surprised at how much less reactive you might end up being just because you're validating your responses instead of invalidating them. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, what you were just talking about dovetails really nicely into something that I wanted to say to this listener, which is that anger is a trauma response. And this listener mentions having experienced trauma and abuse in the past, and it is literally there. Like, if you look in the DSM-5, which is the book that clinicians around the world use to make diagnoses for mental health, under the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the criteria is irritability. And I think it even phrases it in another way too, about having anger outbursts. I think it might say that as well. So this is a pretty common trauma response that oftentimes gets overlooked. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think about trauma as having nightmares or having flashbacks or being really hypervigilant and on edge, which is true. It can look all of that way also. Mm-hmm. But this is a really common way that trauma shows up, is as anger. And we talked about this, I believe, a little bit in the Emotions 101 episodes that we did, which luckily this listener has heard. But when it comes to anger serves such a functional, adaptive purpose. Anger really keeps us safe because it signals to everyone else, don't come near me. Mm-hmm. It keeps people at arm's length, and it can really protect us from feeling some of those more vulnerable emotions, like fear or like hurt or like shame, if we feel and look angry instead. So it's very protective, and a lot of people experience it as a trauma response. So as Kate was just talking about with, like, validate your emotions, mm-hmm. It's okay to validate the anger that you experience. And I mentioned this in a comment to this listener directly, but it's worth saying here in the Q&A as well for other people listening. Kate and I actually, which this is why we co-host, is because I like Kate's suggestions for different skills, but she came up with 3 different skills that I hadn't thought of for what could be helpful here. So the skills that I thought of that may help when it comes to having explosive reactions is using tip, using stop, and also, which was kind of where my brain was going with, like, ooh, and this might be a way to be compassionate towards yourself, like Kate was thinking of with the 5 senses, is also using improve. There's some stuff within improve that might be really helpful, like the one thing at a time, encouragement, taking some opportunities to try to relax, because as Kate said, and I 100% agree, it may be that you're reacting this way because you're already at capacity. And then something happens, even if it's pretty small, and bam, you've tipped the scale. You've gone past what you can manage. And so using improve can be a really nice way to just be kind to yourself, to use some of the different components of that. But yeah, you are doing the best that you can. That's basically how I would sum it up there. So yeah,
I like it.
All right, last one, Kate.
Last one. All right, so this one said, I love DBT Me so far. Thank you. I just got diagnosed with BPD, borderline personality disorder, so DBT is pretty new to me. On the other hand, I was wondering if any of you know some home remedies for brain zaps. I'm having withdrawals from my old anti-anxiety medication of Abilify, but these withdrawals are kicking my butt. Please let me know.
All right. So to start off, I did respond to this person in the Facebook group, and listener, my response was way off base. So I want to offer an apology for that because for some reason in my mind, I was thinking of the term brain zaps and got it confused with another concept. And I threw out some skills that really actually don't apply for what you're experiencing. So after I made my post, I was like, hold on, am I thinking about the brain zaps that they're referring to? And basically after I did some further research, again, I was like, whoa, I'm off base here. So erase the response that I said in the Facebook group, and I have some different guidance now to give. First thing, though, that's also really important before I say my thoughts is that neither Kate or I are medical professionals.
Nope.
So if you haven't already, absolutely be in contact with your primary care doctor, the person who did prescribe this anti-anxiety medication for you. Talk with them. So I don't want it to come across like I'm giving medical advice. This is just some stuff that I found online when I was researching further after I realized what you were referring to, that could be helpful to try out. So first thing that I saw in doing some research was honestly some stuff referencing please. So some of the please skills that we talked about way back at the beginning of emotion regulation in terms of making sure that you are taking care of yourself in terms of what you're eating, moving your body, getting sufficient sleep. And some of this admittedly may be really, really hard right now with the withdrawals that you're experiencing. But if there's a way to hang on to some part of please, even if it's like that you're trying to eat healthy foods 3 times a day or whatever it might look like for you personally, try to just maintain as much of your self-care as you can to keep your footing in these other areas while you're going through the withdrawals, is one way to look at this. The other thing that I found, which again, talk with your doctor to see if these are things that could be helpful for you, but that some people have maybe found it helpful to take some different supplements. So I read online that omega-3 fatty acids, which from what I know, again, I'm not a nutritionist either, but those are some things you get from eating fish, that may be helpful. Getting some B vitamins and some magnesium. So these are supplements that you can find over the counter, really at any grocery store that you go to. So maybe double checking with your primary care doctor before you try taking these. But my guess is also that if you do take them, these are probably things that hopefully won't have their own side effects that come along. But you might want to talk with your doctor in terms of what kind of dose to take, if you should just take the dose recommended on the supplement bottle, if maybe because of what you're going through, you have the green light to maybe take it a little extra, to see what would be helpful. So bottom line is be in touch with your primary care doctor, but maybe those could be some things to look into that might be helpful in terms of supplements, and just trying to hold on to your please skills as best you can. And again, I apologize for my initial feedback in the group with the skills that I recommended.
So I remember being so puzzled, so I felt so bad about it because I was like, what is she talking about?
I was thinking something totally different.
In case anybody needed the reminder that Michelle and I are human, and like every human on the planet, we fuck up. So,
yep, this is true.
I think I try and make sure that I cover at least my half of the fucking up. It's good that Michelle occasionally covers her half of the fucking up. She's bad about covering her half of the fucking up, but now and then she chips in. Anyway, so my first thought was, I just wanted to say I've had them. I have had brain zaps. If listeners are listening to this and going, what in the name of actual fuck are they talking about? Brain zaps are a symptom of withdrawal from certain mental health medications. Everybody describes them differently. The way that I experienced them, and this is a very weird thing to try and describe, was like if someone plucked an electric guitar string in the center of my brain, but without any of the sound. Just that pling, like that weird vibrational, well, there's a reason they call them brain zaps. It's kind of a zappy feeling. It's like there was a weird, I don't know, electrical zap in the middle of your brain. And they're really uncomfortable. So the first thing I just wanted to say was that I have a lot of empathy for the person who made this post and anyone and everyone else who has gone through these things, they suck. And then when I was talking about this with Michelle before the episode, she was like, what did you do for them? And I was like, nothing. I don't know. Endured them. I mean, though I will also share that I had these when I was much younger, so I don't know what I would have tried now as an older person. But when I was talking about it during, I was like, actually, now that I think about it, radical acceptance is probably a decently good skill, like if you want an actual skill to look at or focus on for this. Because while Michelle was talking about some things that have been known to help some people, also the other side of the internet says that there's no actual treatment for these things. So again, it's one of those things like, well, this is my reality. So
now what?
Now what, right? And so yeah, some amount of just radically accepting. All right, this is what's going on. The other thing that might be helpful is to remind yourself. How do I want to put this? I was gonna say remind yourself why you're going through them, which sounds weird, but I mean like you and or your doctor chose together for you to be getting off this medication, ideally, right? So there was something driving this choice, and so sometimes it can be a little reassuring when you're suffering through, I don't know, almost anything, to remind yourself of the reasons for why you're doing the thing, right? A little bit like, all right, this is what it is, but it's this way because this is the choice that I'm making for myself, right? Like, this is the thing. I have this goal. This is the best way to achieve that goal. And this is just part of the unfortunate consequences that are coming between me, between point A and point B of trying to get to whatever this other goal is. So it might be a little bit helpful to sort of soothe yourself in that fashion of just reminding yourself, why that happened, right? Taking the medication was probably a choice that you thought through and your medical professionals thought through. Coming off of it is probably something you have thought through and your medical professionals have thought through. There are reasons behind this happening. And again, I also am not a medical professional, but my understanding is that they don't last forever. So a little bit of I don't know for how long I have to endure this, but it won't be forever, can also sometimes be a little bit reassuring to know.
I could imagine that being so unique for each person.
Yeah. Yep, how long it lasts, what it feels like, the intensity of it. Yeah. I laugh. I found them very uncomfortable. And disconcerting, because you feel, before I knew what they were, you feel a little crazy. You're like, what the? I don't think I'm capable of having a sensation in that part of my body. My brain doesn't, literally you don't have, sensation nerves in your brain. So the idea that you're feeling any sort of zap or vibration or electric thing in the middle of your brain is very disconcerting and a little crazy making. So, first of all, just to validate, they're real. You're not making that shit up.
And even though you said for you, Kate, it was years ago that you did experience this, my sense hearing you talk about it and your experience is that you can almost remember it like yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It was memorable.
Yes.
How hard it was for you to be going through that yourself.
Yes, definitely. So, yeah, all the empathy. I have loads of empathy. That's mostly what I have to give for this particular thing. And radical acceptance and reminding yourself of why and that it won't last forever. There you go. Mm-hmm. I think that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done. So, as Kate was saying at the beginning, email us. We do love receiving emails. DBT Me Podcast at gmail.com. Continue posting in the Facebook group if that's your preferred way, if you have some questions or something that you're struggling with. And it can be about anything, right? We had some posts today, about experiencing brain zaps, about experiencing anxiety, about friends coming over. It does not have to be just about DBT. It can totally just be like, I'm dealing with this thing, whatever it is, and what support or what kinds of guidance or suggestions do you have for me? We're open to anything and everything that you might be wanting support with. So email us with it at dbtmepodcast@gmail.com or post it in the Facebook group.
Yes.
So, and then we'll hopefully be back sooner rather than later with our 10th one.
Woo! Yes, that's it. Help us get to 10. Help us get to 10.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. So, all right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group. Simply log in to your Facebook profile and search for